Hello and welcome to the Creature Club podcast, a podcast where we talk about the monsters in Dungeons and Dragons. We go through alphabetically, and we are currently going through our Fs. I am one of your hosts, Tim, and I am joined by two delightful hosts this time. I am joined by a Daniel.
Hello.
And a Mikey.
Hello.
A Mikey and a Dan. Not necessarily the ones you know and love.
Yeah, we might be new ones.
The ambiguity there.
There is more than one Mikey and more than one Dan in the world, so.
I liked how you said, I am your host, like one
Yeah.
of your hosts instead of your hosts. That was good. I liked that. It gave me kind of like thank energy. Like,
Yeah.
Your host.
So, just a small update at the front end of the podcast. I'm sure you've noticed, any regular listeners, that we don't produce as much as we once did. But we have decided, the three of us, that we are going to go to a more monthly schedule. So we're going to try to record within the first week-ish of the month, and then we'll get it edited and put out sometime during the month. So this one will presumably be the April podcast. So happy April.
Happy April.
What happens in April? My mum's birthday.
April Fools.
your mum's birthday. I've got that on my calendar. Don't worry. Galway invaded by the Indians, I think.
Galway was invaded by the Indians? Don't remember that part of Irish history.
I think that was July, actually. Never mind.
Oh, right, of course.
So I guess the reason why, because we're doing that, is we'll have kind of less episodes coming out, but I'd say what I think that is going to happen with it is going to be, it's going to be consistent Creature Club episodes,
Yeah.
I think is what we're going with that one. It's going to be less episodes, but it'll be more just Creature Club.
Pure, unadulterated.
And we'll talk about the other shows when we get there.
So there you go. So this week, as I said, we are amongst the Fs. We are doing today the legendary Flumph. The Flumph is very much an invention of D&D. So there's no historical, mythological basis for this outside of what Dan is about to tell us. So
Is there anything in real life history and folklore of just a little man who helps you when you're lost?
This little fellow.
This little fellow.
the small man, tiny little man. Never mind. Gosh, I mean, I didn't go so far as to draw those kind of lines, but
That's kind of abstract.
I mean,
Yes.
from looking at them, jellyfish exist in the real world, and if you find one of those, you'll be like, I see, I'm in the deep ocean.
Yes. I don't like jellyfish.
Yeah, well, a lot of them are very bad for you. So
That's true, unfortunately.
even though they're like approximately 99% water, the rest of them is just death. So,
Yeah, which is it's not totally dissimilar from humans, but it's a little more direct.
Yeah, totally true.
I like jelly though.
Ooh,
Yes, which does come, you can only get that by hunting jellyfish. So yeah.
That's true. Yeah. So I guess I have to.
I learned a little while ago that hunting jellyfish is the worst thing you can do if you're trying to eradicate them, because when you kill them, they spill all their guts and like all of their reproductive organs just like explode basically. So
Jesus.
they just make hundreds of millions
Just like when you kill a man.
more. Exactly. Yeah.
You just
try
stab
to-
a guy in his
His nards just blow up like a grenade. Like
I have no evidence to the contrary, so I inherently believe both of you.
it's like in GoldenEye when like you shoot a chair and it explodes. Like same idea. It just like goes up in fire and everything.
Exactly. That's exactly what happens.
So that's our real world history then. That's
it.
Yeah, cool. That's fine. Absolutely fine. Good stuff, Tim.
Well, I will jump into the history in Dungeons and Dragons then. So the Flumph originates from first edition. It doesn't originate in the original monster manual. It originates in the Fiend Folio, which we've been to before. Lots of cool monsters in here. And as you say, Tim, the Flumph is very much an invention of Dungeons and Dragons. And as a result, it is almost entirely unchanged. It's always had the same basic shape. It's kind of like it's described as kind of a saucer shape with a bunch of tentacles and spikes on the underside and some eye stalks. The only difference is that really it gets a bit smarter. In the first edition, it's described as a creature that can communicate in the lawful alignment tongue, but its vocabulary is severely limited. Back in first edition, each of the alignments had a language associated with them. I don't exactly know how that worked, but just there was one of the factors in the game. It was like if you were a lawful creature, you could speak lawful, and you could communicate with other lawful creatures.
Interesting.
It was supposed to be kind of a pseudo language or something like that, but it allowed you to communicate ideas, I think. Anyway, that's the only thing it could speak. It could speak in a single kind of alignment based tongue, but not in any other languages. In second edition, it's mostly the same in terms of how smart it is, but they introduce a new idea called the monastic Flumph.
Ooh.
The seldom seen monastic Flumphs are more advanced creatures that can cast spells as if they were clerics of level equal to their hit dice. They gather in cloisters to share knowledge and to worship deities unknown to humanoids. A cloister is usually in a large cavern, or in swamps and grasslands, a large nest-like bower constructed of fine, colourful paintings made by Flumphs dabbling natural pigments with their tentacles. The paintings are usually abstract, showing spirals and other curved lines, though some are vaguely representative of Flumphs engaging in hunting. And then it describes how they're broken down. There's always an abbot who's the boss, and then he's got some priors, and then there's some monks. And it says that sometimes normal Flumphs live near them because they are able to heal them and stuff like that, because they're clerics and they have healing magic.
A whole Flumph society going on here.
There's an entire society of Flumphs living underneath your house.
Yours, dear listener.
Don't raise a fuss because they will just curse you, so you're going to have to get in like an adventure.
Yeah.
I can curse them.
Yeah, and then they'll curse them instead. That's not your problem. So that's second edition. In third edition, they do not appear in a book. Instead, they appear in Dungeon Magazine, Dungeon Magazine 118. And they don't actually appear as a stat line on its own. They appear in an adventure called The Box of Flumph. The adventure concerns a cavern where a family of Flumph are living, and a ne'er-do-well basically kidnaps the Flumphs and intends to get rid of them because their employer wants to reopen the mine that the Flumphs are living in. And because Flumphs use gross smell to repel creatures, there's no miners want to go down there because it smells like poo. So that's third edition. They appear in an adventure, and as far as I know, that's their only appearance. But there is a stat line for the Flumph. As you'd expect, it's mostly the same, except it's third edition, so all the stats are really complicated and everything has loads of words, and it's just a
bit of a mess.
It's a little bit of a mess. Fourth edition. Fourth edition is very fun. I like this. In fourth edition, again, they don't appear in a book, but they do appear in an adventure. They appear in one of the delves, and the delves were like little mini kind of like self-contained adventures that you could run your players through if you didn't know what to run.
Cool.
And there was a whole book with them called like Dungeon Delves that was just like something like 20 of them, one for every level. Just for you, like, if you ever need like an interstitial adventure for your players, you just stick them in one of those. But this is a delve called Fool's Grove, which is very interesting. It's got an interesting setup where the players are traveling through the forest when suddenly they encounter an enormous door, and the door tells them basically to bugger off and has specific identifying details, so it knows it's talking to the players. It's literally telling this. It says keep out, yes, that means you, and it says specifically the players in question. And anyway, I won't go too much into the adventure. It's kind of cute. But one of the things it does that I really like is it reintroduces a bunch of old monsters from first and second edition. And the way it reintroduces them is it gives them a nice fourth edition stat block, but it uses the original art from the first edition book.
Oh.
So like that like Michelin Man enveloper that we discussed before, that I sent you a picture of because it looks so funny. Like that art is in this little delve book. It's like, this is what the enveloper looks like. It looks like a marshmallow guy, and stuff like that. And
He's really angry as well. He's like,
yes, he's properly upset with you.
yeah.
I love how it looks like he's coming out of a door, like, you know, he's just found out you've eaten his leftovers or something in the fridge.
He's like,
trying to,
sorry, man. I'll get some more for you. I didn't know it was yours. I thought it was for everyone.
Fists
so
clenched.
mad.
He's just furious.
He's fuming. Yeah. So anyway, that's what the adventure is. And that introduces the Flumph in 4th edition. So again, the Flumph is reintroduced as an adventure rather than as a full-blown, self-contained within a book of monsters. And that brings us to 5th edition. And in 5th edition, the Flumph is now in the monster manual. I don't know what got it promoted exactly, but I mean, here it is. And I will say that for the most part, as I say, the only difference is it's gotten smarter with every edition. So it used to be a creature that was occasionally kind of an animal, but could communicate in very limited ways, and occasionally it would be more intelligent and it would be capable of magic. Like over time, they developed like actual uses of languages, and eventually they get limited telepathy. And now in 5th edition, they've got full super telepathy.
Ooh.
In fact, they've got advanced telepathy. So it's all very much.
Very good.
I'd imagine what got them into the monster manual was public outcry for like the Flumphs, because like when people feel very passionate about something, as I'm sure people do about the Flumph, because I think he's a great little dude, they will make it known that they want the Flumph to be more prominent, and I'm glad it is.
Yeah, and 5th edition is kind of like a greatest hits of like the monster manual. I mean, it's kind of a greatest hits of all the other like, you know, the classic monsters and the ones that kind of stuck around for a while. They kind of put them all into this book. You know, we mentioned that before a lot.
Yeah.
Shall I read what's on this book for the folks at home?
Yes.
I believe it's possible.
All right. Flumph. The mysterious Flumphs drifts through the Underdark, propelled through the air by jets whose sounds give them their name. So they kind of just fart around and it sounds like Flumph. That's what they do.
Very good.
A Flumph glows faintly, reflecting its mood in its color. Soft pink means it is amused. Deep blue is sadness. Green expresses curiosity. A crimson is anger. And by the picture, it's blue, so it's sad.
Oh.
No.
It's not deep blue, but it's blue. It's sad. Why are you sad?
Why him sad?
Intelligent and wise, Flumphs communicate telepathically. Though they resemble jellyfish, Flumphs are sentient beings of great intelligence and wisdom, possessing advanced knowledge of religion, philosophy, mathematics, and countless other subjects. So, yeah, you're just going with what you said there, Dan, of it kind of getting smarter every edition, and it's kind of, you know, has a lot of knowledge on a lot of things there, you know?
I've been doing a lot of reading.
Yeah, I wasn't very good at maths when I was growing up, so I guess I should have had a Flumph friend.
What about religion and philosophy?
How good are you at religion?
I was a little bit better, I think, you know?
Oh, there you go.
Better than math.
And-
Fair enough.
I didn't even know what a philosophy was when I was younger. Flumphs are sensitive to the emotional states of nearby creatures. If a creature's thoughts suggest goodness, a Flumph seeks that creature out. When facing creatures that exude evil, a Flumph flees.
Quite reasonable.
Just leave.
Just leave.
Leave.
No, I don't need to mention that. I'll talk about it another time. Can one of you guys read the next one?
I would love to.
Excellent.
Psionic siphons. Flumphs feed by siphoning mental energy from psionic creatures. They can be found lurking near communities of mind flayers, aboleths, githyanki, and githzerai. As passive parasites, they take only the mental energy they need, and most creatures feel no loss or discomfort from such feeding. Which is kind of pleasant. Good for you. Nice Flumphs. Making sure that the people or creatures around you aren't made uncomfortable by you feeding off their psionic energies.
You know, it's the little things, isn't it?
Let me just feed off your psionic energy real quick. Thanks.
Wait, what? What? No, I'll do it subtly. You won't even notice it's happening. Don't worry. Consuming psionic energy reveals the thoughts and emotions of creatures on which the Flumph feeds. Since so many of those creatures are evil, Flumphs are often subject to thoughts, emotions, and hungers that sicken their pure nature. When Flumphs encounter good-hearted adventurers, they eagerly share their dark secrets they have learned in the hopes of casting down their evil sources of energy, even if doing so means they must seek out new sources of nourishment. Wow, so they don't like the taste of evil psionic energy, but when they don't have any choice, they'll keep siphoning off it until they can get rid of the thing that they're siphoning off. I don't fully understand the logic behind this fellow, but he's cute, so I'll let him pass.
All right.
So they kind of go to adventurers if they're good, and they just like feed off their vibes.
Yeah, basically. They're psionic vibes.
Okay.
Vibe check.
Quick vibe check.
Feed off the siphoning the mental energy from psionic creatures. I wonder if you have to be a scion for them to be able to feed off you.
I was thinking that.
So, sorry, I'll just read the last bit and then we can come back and chat about this.
Sure.
Flumph society. Flumphs live in complex and organized groups called cloisters. Oh, look at that, like the monasteries.
I thought I was going to say Flumphs live in a society.
Within which each Flumph has a place and purpose. These harmonious groupings have no need for leaders, since all Flumphs contribute in their own way. That's lovely, isn't it?
Aww,
It is.
That's so nice.
I do prefer Flumph abbots though, because I just like them. The idea of them wearing like little hats or something,
Yeah.
you know, like a little,
Or
like a
little
little
sash.
decoration, like a tabard. Yeah, sash,
Yeah.
exactly. Like just a little thing that's like, I'm the abbot. Like I think that's good.
Hit me. That psionic siphon thing, as you were mentioning earlier, I think I would imagine in a world where Flumphs exist, everything gives off maybe like a low level psionic energy thing that they can subsist off if somebody actively knows that they're there. But maybe when they're so powerful that they actually draw the Flumphs, then maybe the siphoning isn't as like noticeable or something. That's probably how I would do it.
If you wanted to multi-class into a scion of some sort in 5th edition, what like stat do you need for that to be high enough? Because I was thinking that maybe characters with more of intelligence, I'd say, or something like that.
It used to be intelligence was the and in the way back when, in the Dark Ages, before electricity was invented.
Yep. How'd they play D&D then?
No one knows. No one wrote anything down, so we don't know.
Yeah.
The how the system worked was you actually rolled randomly against your intelligence value. So it didn't matter what kind of character you were, you just rolled to see if you had psionic potential. And then if you did have psionic potential, you could choose to effectively surrender class levels to level into Scion. So it was basically totally random. It was very strange.
Okay.
But I think in that context, we could kind of assume that maybe anyone with a sufficiently high intelligence emanates an amount of psionic energy.
Psionic vibes.
What is interesting, actually, I will say, is how the feeding habits of Scions have, of Flumphs have changed. Because in first edition, it doesn't say, in the Fiend Folio, it doesn't say, but in the second edition book, I don't know if they actually have them in this. Do they have them in this? They do not. Ooh, interesting. So the design of the Flumph has changed slightly. So on the underside of the Flumph in the second edition art, and in the third edition art as well, the Flumph has spikes. And basically it describes how what the Flumph actually does is it hunts small creatures. I'm going to send a picture for you boys to review while I continue talking.
Excellent.
It hunts small creatures and it eats them?
Because it flies, what it does is it just hovers over small creatures like rats, and it just falls on them. And because it has spikes on its underside, it just wounds it. And then its tentacles are covered in a digestive acid. And it describes how most of the time this attack might not actually kill the animal, but it'll fatally wound it. And so the Flumph just follows them until they die. And then basically absorbs them with their tentacles.
Jesus.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, we eat animals to survive. So, I mean, and our strategy was mostly just wounding them and following them around. So, like, I don't know. It's basically the same thing.
Okay, yeah. Sorry about that. Sorry, Flumph.
No, I mean, like,
But no.
I feel like maybe it's my first thought when you were like, oh, it just kind of stabs them. I was like, okay, so it evokes a very powerful emotional reaction. Because when I get hurt, I feel sad and like disturbed, basically. So I'll like lash out or whatever. So if somebody stabbed me, I'd probably be pretty animated about it.
Right.
And maybe it would feed off those kind of vibes.
Yeah.
That's what I initially thought, but it just straight up eats things. Fair enough.
Well, yeah. So this is the thing, right? So this is second edition. Second edition, it eats animals.
Yeah.
In third edition, it says again. I'll just read the section here. Flumphs can eat animal and vegetable matter, but prefer to eat minerals, especially salt that have been broken down into a thick sludge by their acidic tentacles. They absorb this sludge through the hollow spikes that hang from their underside. So in other words, like they're actually more like lithivores. Like they actually prefer like minerals and just like kind of almost pure material that they can obviously use to fuel their bodies. And I kind of like that. I sort of like the idea. I like the idea of them just eating salt, like pure salt.
Yeah.
That's like very interesting to me because it's like, oh, that's kind of like a unique thing that like, you know, we know what salt is and we would have it as part of our diets, but we wouldn't subsist entirely on it.
Yeah.
And the idea that these creatures do because they're kind of aberrant and they're different to us is kind of cool. So yeah, so that's interesting. And now obviously they apparently feed off pure vibe and nothing else, which is interesting because obviously as well as that, it says now as passive parasites. So that's interesting because it moves them from initially what was like a predator to kind of a weird, like, you know, an opportunistic lithivore into a parasite, which is interesting.
Very strange indeed.
I do like the idea of it being kind of like of like the first kind of the predator side of it, of it just like being a weird thing that kind of eats in a strange way, I guess, like of just stabbing rats and eating them, but it's still helping you because like you as players can just be like, this seems kind of weird, but it's helping us. Okay, that's fine. Let's follow him, I guess. Like,
let's follow this little weirdo.
Yeah, because you know the players are little weirdos. So
Yeah, they
you
are.
know, he suits them.
Birds of a feather.
I don't know, like, you know, humans trained types of dogs to hunt rats. So like the idea of like a guy who's just like, I just eat rats. It's like, well, that's just sensible.
Yeah,
There's less rats around.
We have a tiny little quote.
Yep.
Beneath our picture. I'll read it out. It's quite lengthy, so bear with me. Trust a Flumph. Although it's a Mystic's Guide, so it should be more of a trust a Flumph.
Oh wow, that's what mystics sound like.
Yeah, that's what they do. That's how they are.
Yeah, I did like the solid snake one that you did first, though. The trust a Flumph.
Trust a Flumph.
Trust a Flumph.
It's more of a question
can't
when
do.
Snake says it.
Trust a Flumph.
Trust a Flumph.
Flumph. Yes, a Flumph snake. Let's play the music.
Yeah. And now, please welcome to the stage the stylings of Mikey DC with his drum-backed beat poem, Flumph Stat Block. Take it away, Mikey.
Flumph. Small aberration. Lawful good. Armor class 12. Hit points 7. 2d6. Speed 5 feet. Fly 30 feet. Strength 6, Dex 15, Constitution 10, Intelligence 14, Wisdom 14, Charisma 11. Skills: Arcana +4, History +4, Religion +4. Damage, Vulnerability, Psychic, Senses, Dark Vision 60 feet, Path Perception 12. Languages: understands Undercommon but can't speak. Telepathy 60 feet. Challenge rating 18. 25 XP.
That was very intense.
Groovy.
That was-
I wanted to do kind of like a slam poetry.
Yeah,
that was
it was good.
great.
I
Very much enjoyed that. That was a different take, all right. Yeah.
Because I don't think people really listen too much to the numbers, so I just decided to have a bit of fun with it. So
Make it a little bit
man.
more ear catching.
Yeah.
We'll put some soft percussion music in the background.
Please do.
Yeah, that's happening.
all right, yeah. When you guys want to do the abilities?
Sure, I will read the abilities. It has advanced telepathy. The Flumph can perceive the content of any telepathic communication used within 60 feet of it, and it can't be surprised by creatures with any form of telepathy. Ooh, interesting. Prone deficiency. Prone deficiency? It's prone to deficiency. I don't know why that stuck with me. If the Flumph is knocked prone, roll a die. On an odd result, the Flumph lands upside down and is incapacitated. At the end of each of its turns, the Flumph can make a DC 10 dexterity saving throw, righting itself and ending the incapacitated condition if it succeeds. Okay.
So it's like the turtle on its shell and it can't get up.
Prone deficiency is a very strange way to put that.
Yeah.
So when you are prone, you're deficient, or are
It is so weird.
That
It
is
is so weird.
That's dumb.
Prone deficiency isn't like, what does that mean? And whatever you think it means, like when I think about what prone deficiency would mean, it's not that. Like,
Yeah.
This is, I think, it's so interesting to see this as someone who's read over the other stat blocks. So what they are doing, what they are trying to do, is there's a very cute detail in all of the previous iterations of the Flumph, which is right at the end of all their stat blocks, it always just reads a single sentence. A Flumph is helpless if turned over. That's all it says. And like, it's just a little cute thing of like, oh, it's this little weird guy, and if you turn him on his top, he's helpless. He can't do anything. And it's in first edition, a Flumph is helpless, turned over. Second edition, Flumph is helpless, turned over. Third edition, they're helpless if they're turned over. It does now add a thing where they can attempt a DC 20 check to try to flip themselves over. And it does hilariously say that because they're so light, they will actually fall over if they're exposed to high wind, which I really like. But other than that, it's again the same rule. But interestingly enough, obviously they had to give it a rule and a name in third edition, because that's what third edition does. In third edition, they just called it helplessness. And it just says, a Flumph that is flipped over becomes helpless, disoriented, and falls over to the ground. That's all it says. Like, that's the start.
Sure.
And I feel like that would be such a better term for it than prone deficiency.
yeah. I like that the way it says at the start of each of its turns, which, makes sense, but it's just very funny thinking about a Flumph in like multi-turn combat. And it's, of course it has to have it here in the 5th edition stat block, but I just not picture it in a combat.
If you knock a Flumph prone, combat is immediately initiated.
Yeah, all right, combat.
Volatile reaction starts playing.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, telepathic shroud. The Flumph is immune to any effect that would sense its emotions or read its thoughts, as well as all divination spells. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it is cool.
Powerful.
I wonder if we can spread that to its friends. I would probably give it because it's like a shroud, I'd probably give it like a 20-foot radius on that ability, so that it can help its friends. And it's very useful to have a Flumph in your party.
Just to for one last point again, because other editions of this game have titles for everything.
Sure.
In 4th edition, it was called Prone Powerlessness.
Oh, sorry.
And it was the same idea that when it's made prone, it's much weaker. And I think even that's better than prone
That's
deficiency.
much better than prone deficiency.
I would have liked like help, just like the word help with an exclamation point.
Or instead of like prone powerlessness, if it said powerless when prone, if that was the name of the ability, it would be very clear what it did, and then you could just explain it with the text.
Prone
deficiency.
Who the fuck?
Who in their right? Yeah.
And that's been another edition of the 5th edition book is written weird. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Sometimes the words are weird, and no one knows why.
Gotta workshop that name, but
we do like these guys.
Nice.
Actions. These are both pretty long, actually.
Yeah.
Tendrils, melee weapon attack, +4 to hit, reach 5 feet, 1 creature, hit, 4 damage, or 1d4 plus 2 piercing damage, plus another 2 1d4 acid damage. At the end of each of its turns, the target must make a DC 10 Constitution saving throw, taking another d4 acid damage on a failure, or ending the recurring acid damage on a success. A lesser restoration spell cast on the target also ends the recurring acid damage. And then Stench Spray, once per day. Each creature in a 15-foot cone originating from the Flumph must succeed on a DC 10 dexterity saving throw, be coated in a foul-smelling liquid. A coated creature exudes a horrible stench for 1d4 hours. The coated creature is poisoned as long as the stench lasts, and other creatures are poisoned while within 5 feet of the coated creature. A creature can remove the stench on itself by using a short rest to bathe in water, alcohol, or vinegar.
Vinegar,
Vinegar,
please.
definitely. I'll take vinegar.
Easiest, and then I'll smell like a chippy. So
There you go. That water stuff is very hard to come by.
I'll attract all the seagulls.
It's attract all the seagulls.
So both of these, for the record, are basically the Flumph's historic abilities. The third attack, which it no longer has, is to fall on people and hit them with its spikes,
Right.
which for the record was a D8 if it fell on you. So then it says the only other difference, and actually I think it might be one of my favorite things, in first edition, the Flumph, spat out a foul spelling liquid. But the liquid didn't poison you. You made a saving throw as if you were against poison, but it doesn't say it deals any damage. Instead, it just says, for the next 1 to 4 hours afterwards, a victim struck by this liquid will be shunned by his companions, who will not be able to tolerate their presence within 100 feet until the effect wears off.
Wow.
It's just, I love that that's the only rule. It's you smell so bad, all your friends hate you.
All your friends immediately hate you.
There's no other mechanical consequence. You just stink, and your friends are like, you stink, you have to leave.
Get away.
You can't come into the tavern. You actually have to wait outside.
It's like you're playing like a RPG, like a video game, and then like once you stink, then like all your like party members, like the little happy faces just turn into like angry faces. And you go up to them just like, you stink, and then
Boss?
Balls, you stink, and then he throws a bucket of water on him.
So that's a fine little stat block for our floaty little friend, I think.
It seems like it's the Flumph stuff is all in there, really.
Yeah.
I did actually kind of breeze past all that stuff when I was doing the slam poetry, but it still has the, proficiency, I guess, in Arcana, History, and Religion.
Yeah.
Yes, so it's got that knowledge, yeah.
Yeah, it's knowledge. And the vulnerabilities of Psychic makes sense too, because I guess like it has the telepathic shroud.
Yeah.
So it's very much the kind of stat block. I guess we'll go more into it when we're doing the next section, but it's very much the stat block of like a little companion.
Yeah.
Because I don't think anyone's fighting a Flumph unless it's the like other enemies or something.
You're an evil campaign.
Yeah. Ooh. No, I was thinking like just the enemies that the players are fighting, and this guy's fighting with them.
Very cute.
Yeah, I think the only other thing I'm surprised by is that its intelligence and wisdom are the same. They're both 14.
Yeah.
The only reason I think that's unusual is just because, it describes how they're, it says they are intelligent and wise and they're well versed in subjects. But I suppose it seems like it would make more sense to like raise intellect a little more because they have that sort of tie into psionics,
Right.
or maybe even give them a little minor like psionic cantrip kind of thing, like something like even like a little mage hand, like they can pick things up and stuff like that, because they are apparently like feeding on psionic energy, the idea that like they can kind of spend that energy and maybe become really hungry, but like do something kind of minor, but like definitely magical, if that makes sense. But yeah, I agree. Other than that, it all makes sense to me. I really like how it has armor class 12 and there's nothing in brackets because it's just 10 plus the 2 decks, and
There you go.
doesn't, I'm just like, you never see that. You never see it's just a number and nothing in brackets. It's really rare.
I'm looking at the flame skull and it's the
Yeah,
same,
it's
but I guess it's
next page.
well, it's a similar kind of monster. It's a monster. It's a floating
little
thing. It's a little floating
Oh
thing.
yeah, but I mean, if you scroll down to the next guy, the Fomorian, you immediately natural armor.
Yeah.
Natural armor.
And it's going to be, and it's just, a lot of, and in fairness, the reason why is very obvious because, a Flumph isn't really something you fight. And even if it was, its armor wouldn't be that high. So they just make it, it's just base 10 plus its dex and that's it. Whereas like something like a Fomorian, which is supposed to be a monster you fight, kind of needs an amount of armor to be a threat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it all makes sense. It's just, I just like it. I just like, there's nothing there because there's no explanation.
Yeah.
Nice.
Very good.
Shall we ring the dessert bell?
Let's.
Go ahead. Daniel, I'll let you ring it this time.
Dessert Town. Let's fight this guy in the Matrix room, even though we just discussed not fighting this guy.
So we're going to have 4 1/8 level PCs fighting this.
Or potentially 4 party members against 8 Flumphs.
Yes, we'll go with that one. That makes more sense.
8 Flumphs. Imagine.
So they've got a lot of actions because there's 8 of them. But if the party hit them, they die.
Yes.
They've got 7 health.
Yes.
I think because they've only got 7 health, obviously, level 1 players can just roll a 1 on a damage dice, and it's like 4 damage, so they survive. But statistically, 1 or 2 hits knocks them out, and they can't hit the party if the party is wearing any armor. A +4 to hit means they get about a 14 on average. A character in, what is it? Is chainmail the kind of starting armor for fighters?
Yeah.
I want to say chainmail is 16 if you've got if you've got a +1 dex, and then a shield makes that 18. 17, 18 is kind of easy for tankier players to reach because shields just give you that great +2. So that means they're very unlikely to hit them. And if they do hit the fighter, then the fighter's very likely to pass the con save for the acid because they're probably tanky.
I think they're probably good.
I think in fairness, level 1 parties also have very little health.
Yeah.
But I think really they just hit the Flumphs. The Flumphs have a problem where they have 1 attack, which is a melee attack, but they don't want to be in melee because then they get hit and die, and they don't have any ranged attacks. And the party potentially do have ranged attacks. So like their one advantage that they could fly away, the party can take advantage of by just shooting at them. And they can't shoot anything back.
Yep.
Except for their stench, which doesn't actually damage you, it just poisons you.
It makes you hate your friends.
Yep.
Yeah, it makes you think your friends are smelly, but like it doesn't deal any damage. You can be covered in, you can stink and still, kill a Flumph.
So we're saying a weirdly balanced fight is going on here in the Matrix sphere? Or
it's more like, so the Flumphs deal a minimum of 4 damage if they hit.
Oh yeah.
And a level 1 party member has like at max, if they're a barbarian, like 15 health, and normally like close to between like 8 and 10. So they can potentially get some lucky hits in and just kill the party because that's how 5th edition level 1 combat works. But I think statistically they lose to a party who just hit them every turn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the only advantage they have is that there's 8 of them, which is that they double the party at first. But they can all flank.
Advantage all around.
And there's a number of like level 1 spells especially that would just be like, I kill every Flumph. Like, or even just like the sleep spell, and like I target that group of Flumphs and they don't have enough health, so all of them fall asleep, and then we just cut their throats while they're sleeping, or their eye stalks or whatever. So yeah, like I think
Or tie their eye stalks together like a Looney Tunes character.
That's very good. That's very good actually.
How do you hog tie a Flumph?
Just with itself, I guess.
Yeah.
I think I have a couple ideas for like how to use Flumphs, or to make them kind of flavorful, or to make them kind of interesting.
I have something I want to say real quick.
Heck yeah.
Okay.
I got something I want to say, guys. I have a bone to pick with you guys, all right? Like,
Oh shit, okay.
Get up,
Fucking hell.
get up on that apple box.
you guys have been... All right, no. The thing is...
We're both cancelled.
I have a new segment I want to introduce. But it's not much of a segment this time. But basically because, Tim looks up the real world history and folklore. Dan looks up the D&D history. So I was looking for something that I could do, and you guys suggested that I look up the general reception that the D&D playing public like to give these monsters. So look forward to that for the rest of Creature Club episodes. But we're going to start with this one, and from what I can see, it seems like people like Flumphs.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's good.
people like them. They're very much. It's very much like a meme. Like monster, where they're kind of a cute little guy that helps you out.
Yes, they're a little fellow, yeah.
Yeah, but when I go back, it seems like there's a lot of people who say that they're weak and dumb, and I think that's kind of like the older D&D players. I think kind of the older editions of it. And I was just kind of looking up online, and I saw like artwork of someone had like an idea for like, oh, here's my Flumph patron for a warlock, and I was like, oh, that's a bit of fun. And there was a picture of like a big, like almost like elder Flumph, where it was more the image was just like a giant jellyfish, but I guess we can call it like an elder.
The abbot.
Yes, the elder Flumph, which I like that idea so far. But I looked more into like ideas for doing like Flumph warlocks, and I just really like this. Like, someone has answered the question of like, can warlocks make Flumphs their patron in 5th edition? I'm just gonna read the first sentence, and that's it. A Flumph doesn't clear the criteria for being a Warlock patron because, frankly, they're wimps. And that's it.
And that's the feeling for the rest of the article. So
Yes, that's basically it. Yeah, and yes, they are. But if you're making some sort of all-powerful Flumph, then maybe you can do that. It kind of it's like an arch-fae thing, even though they're not fae creatures.
They're aberrations. Yeah.
Aberrations. The general like new D&D younger generation, and a lot of people who I've met seem to love the little guys. They think they're great, so
Well, what I will say, Mikey, what's interesting there of what you've touched on, the idea that there's an older generation that don't like Flumphs. That is apparently the reasoning behind the 3rd edition adventure, the one that actually introduces the Flumph back into the game.
okay.
I will actually I'm going to jump back to this is again Dungeon Magazine 118.
classic.
And on the front page, if you were to buy this if you were to go to Eason in Dunleary and go and look for Dungeon Magazine 118 from January 2005. Do you remember January 2005, boys?
Oh yeah.
Good year by all accounts.
What happened in 2005?
I was 11.
What video game came out?
I had my appendix taken out, I think,
Oh, very good.
around then.
There you go. In January or just in 2005?
It was sometime around 2005-ish.
Devil May Cry 3 came out.
There
Psychonauts
you
came
go.
out. Time Splitters
year.
3.
Oh,
Resident
damn.
Evil 4. Shadow the
go.
Colossus.
I mean, what
Republic
else can you
Commando.
Wow.
The Batman Begins video game.
The
So
Flumph.
it's pretty good. It's a good year.
Good year.
It's a good year, we can agree. But on the front page, so if you were between playing Resident Evil 4 and Batman Begins, the video game,
The movie, the game.
the movie game, and if you were to head down and you were to buy yourself a magazine, on the front page it says "Box of Flumph, D&D's lovable loser returns," and in the adventure itself, the writer of the adventure, whose name is Tim Hitchcock, apologies. He explains that the reason he wrote the adventure is actually to reintroduce the Flumph to 3rd edition because he's always liked them as monsters, and he knows a lot of people aren't as keen. So he tried to write an adventure that was a little bit unique and would make them kind of enjoyable.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that because it does seem to be people don't like them because they're I just read the
Because
phrase
frankly, they're
phrase.
wimps.
Yeah, they're wimps. I just read the phrase "fellow gamer" in a piece of media, and I just that's fucking. Anyway, sorry. They said its overall uselessness and utter ridiculousness is the term quoted by one of the friends of the writers. That's the reason they wrote this adventure. And in terms of ideas, I was actually going to suggest Box of Flumph, Dungeon Magazine 118, as a potential start, as a way to introduce them. Because it is a level 1 adventure intended for entirely new players that also centers around how the Flumphs work, how they live. Obviously, the fact that it says they live in a salt, they feed on salt is important because they live in a salt mine in this adventure.
Yeah.
And the salt mine basically, it would be really valuable to the local town, but because the Flumphs defend themselves by spewing up a foul-smelling liquid, the mines smell terrible and the miners refuse to enter them. And that's basically the core conflict, is that someone has gotten rid of them in a rather cruel manner. And now it's like you're kind of trying to figure out what's going on, and you're trying to track down the naughty man who did it and all this stuff. It's pretty cool. I actually really like it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's that kind of idea of like that they can conflict with people because they smell terrible.
The Flumphs smell terrible?
No, the Flumphs
they
make
can.
people smell. Oh, I
Yeah.
suppose they do.
Yeah.
They would.
Well, yeah, they don't smell like anything, and apparently they don't even have a sense of smell, which is why the defense mechanism works on everyone else.
In a fun little callback to the intro to this episode, we now know that there is at least one other Tim in the entire world. So I am also a Tim.
Confirmed.
Nice.
Confirmed.
A friend.
A friend. A Flumph. A friend.
That's a 3rd edition adventure, Daniel?
Yeah, it's a 3rd edition adventure, and obviously that means you do have to do a bit of jiggery-pokery, but for the most part, the vast majority of the adventure is about uncovering a mystery and recovering information, and so a lot of that stuff is very straightforward to just go, oh, it's asking for a, so for example here it says, it's saying that the players need to do a DC 15 gather information check. Well, gather information doesn't exist in 5th edition, but I could just make it something else depending on what the players are doing,
Yeah.
If they're asking someone nicely, it could be persuasion. If they're, if they're haggling with a merchant, they could be, it could be deception, or it could be like even intimidation if they're trying to like bully someone, the information out of someone. It might even be like history, or even like religion or something if they're natives to the town and they're trying to recall information about it. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, yeah, it is a third edition adventure, but it seems kind of cool. Also, it does that thing that I like where it just has lots of maps. It has lots of maps. It has a little map of the starting town called Still Squall, and it says you could use Still Squall as a little base of operations for your players because it's got lots of interesting rooms in it and stuff. And it's like, I love a map.
Good map. Bit of cartography for me, yeah.
D&D is just a game about having maps. It
is, literally.
It should just be that.
There is, I honestly think I'm going to try to be as honest as I can and say I think 30% of my D&D brain is just enjoying maps.
Yeah.
I know that sounds high, but I'm like trying to be very frank with myself.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I'm going to send the map, by the way. You boys can look at it and see. I want to see if you also appreciate it. I think
That's
it's
a good
nice
map. That's a good map. I like that. Yeah.
I like
that.
bright colors.
Bright colors, very clear, very readable. Lots of like, it has that thing I like where like it has 3 locations marked out, but there's other interesting locations on the map. So the players go, "What's that building? Oh, what is that building?"
Yeah.
I always like that. I like when the map doesn't say, it doesn't say, for example, that building up the top is probably the local fortress, right? But like you can tell from the way it looks. But it's like, oh, that's interesting. Maybe in a later adventure, the players will explore the fortress.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Tim,
Yeah.
I have something to ask you.
You do?
Yeah. Do you have any ideas for a Flumph? Because you did say that,
I do.
and then I interrupted you.
No, not at all.
Would you like to tell us your ideas for the Flumph?
I would love to, Mikey. Thank you for propelling me into this opportunity. So, so I was thinking for like visual flavor for Flumphs, you could probably describe them as whatever specific jellyfish you like. Like you could have the Portuguese man o' more and you could give them like this little mohawk thing, or you could make them look kind of like the lion's mane jellyfish.
I'm just thinking punk Flumph.
Yeah.
Plumph.
Like
Plumph.
different places that you go could have like different shaped Flumphs. But also, I think more evocatively, you could have Flumphs who have absorbed more psionic energy could have more tentacles. So if you come across a very healthy Flumph who's fed on lots of psionic energy, you'll be able to tell by this huge amount of tentacles and maybe this like large bulbous head. Whereas if you come across like a little Flumph that has little nubbins and is barely able to keep himself afloat, you can sympathize with this little Flumph and be like, oh, come with us. You can feed on our energy and we'll learn from you, because maybe it can't even give you the information that it knows about what got it to the state that it's in because it's so weak. And so gradually, as you bring this Flumph with you, it will start to like drip feed you little pieces of telepathic information that could lead you down this little adventure if you wanted to give them a Flumph hook.
Well, all Flumphs contribute in their own way.
Yeah,
It's true.
All them contribute in their own little way.
they do in Flumph society. But yeah, also, I was going to say that I would probably give them some kind of psionic ability, like Mage Hand, or like some kind of like force field thing, or like a push kind of thing that they could do to like defend themselves or something. And that would like cost them length of their tentacles or like something like that. Like they become slightly smaller when they go through the effort of causing this psionic ability, just like humans do when they eat food and then they store that energy and then they use that energy and then they get smaller.
Yeah.
Isn't that how it works?
Correct.
Yeah.
Exactly how it works, Tim.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's my little idea for flavorful Flumphs in a world, in a fantasy setting.
Very good, Tim.
Thanks.
That sounds great.
I think so too. Any ideas from you guys?
I'd like to bring back the monastic Flumphs.
Bring them back then.
course.
Let's bring them back.
I like the structure. There's a couple of things I like about them. First of all, I like the description of they gather in cloisters to share knowledge and to worship deities unknown to humans. I like that sort of like, ooh, mysterious gods and like unknown entities. I really like that idea. I like the idea that like, that because they have this connection to this entity outside of human, knowledge, that they have access to like secrets and prophecy that like other people don't, and maybe even like they can foresee things in strange ways, or they can maybe, unlike sort of prophecy, they can almost counter prophecy. They can see how to like untwist the bind of fate and things like that. Like this very weird esoteric knowledge that they have alone that like makes them useful and like a reason you'd seek them out. I like the idea of them having these like terms for themselves, and even if they are terms that we would use for our own religions, that's useful because it gives a common frame of reference for the party. So like, the idea that the leader of the cloister is the abbot. That they obviously in the context of the second edition book, it says that they're a Flumph with 5 hit dice, and that's just a way of representing that they're more powerful. Right. You could represent the same thing by literally just getting a Flumph and giving it 5 levels of cleric, just stacking them on top of the stat block. You get the same thing.
Maybe they arrange themselves in that order, the like abbot and the monks and stuff, by reading the thoughts of people nearby and understanding a little bit about the structure in other people's religion, because like they don't call themselves abbots or something. They just read that out of someone's mind and was like, oh, that's kind of what I am. Sure, I'm an abbot.
Oh, I see. I like that. Yeah. Like it's like an adopted term from the players almost, because it's like, I mean, there's not like I'm the Flumph in charge because I'm the most powerful. I have the strongest connection to the entity we worship. But like, I'll use the term abbot for you, because you'll understand it. But that we don't use that idea.
It is alien. It is fully alien.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm abbot-ish.
I like that. Yes. Yeah. I'm the abbot as far as you're concerned, because it's easier for you to understand that.
Yeah.
I like that. That's a really good idea. And I think I like the idea of like that. It says there's an abbot and there's one prior for every 6 Flumphs. In other words, 1 in 6 is this high level guy, and otherwise they're all monks. So it's basically like they've got the boss, the assistant, and then the lackeys. Yeah. And I like the idea that they paint with their tentacles. That just feels cool, and like it's a unique expression of their physiology that you otherwise kind of don't see anywhere. Like the only other way that it's represented in 5th edition is that they use them to attack, which is understandable because that's a lot of what D&D is. It's how does this monster try to kill me? But I just like this cultural idea that like that's how they express themselves. They paint with their tentacles, and like they paint abstract, spiral shapes, and it's like, that's interesting. Why spirals? What do spirals mean to a Flumph? What do they mean to us? I just like all that. Like just this idea of like they're just an interesting subculture in the world, and they have some kind of unique and valuable knowledge that maybe will on occasion drive the party to them, but that they just exist as a representation of like, oh yeah, the Flumphs aren't just like nomadic creatures that live in caves. They also can form these like monastic groups. And like you say, Tim, the idea of like, the abbot and the priors and even the monks would have like more power,
right?
Even though it does say it's a religion, maybe because we lean into this psionic idea. So they're not like clerics, they're like scions, It's like it's psionic power they use, and that idea, like you suggested, of like that they kind of expand their telepathic shroud, and so like maybe the whole of their cloister is invisible.
Ooh.
You can't find it with magic. You can't locate it anyway except by literally stumbling upon it. And even like maybe the telepathic shroud extends to like kind of like perception blockers, like in Doctor Who, where it's like if someone has a perception blocker, your eyes just kind of fall off them because you just don't want to pay attention to them particularly. You don't know why, you just don't.
I think that's originally a Douglas Adams idea from Hitchhiker's
Almost
Guide to the
certainly,
Galaxy.
yeah.
Love that.
But yeah, so that idea of like the shroud extends to the point that like, you can't find it magically. You could find it in a mundane way, but the mundane mind would just be like, I don't want to go there, and wouldn't really think about it. And so you'd have to be either like so smart you can see through that, or so dumb it doesn't affect you. Like those are the 2 ways you get past the shroud. And then you can find their camp and be like, how do I stop the prophecy of the Dark Lord? And he's like, you got spirals, man, you gotta get the spirals. What?
It turns out
Trust a Flumph.
Turns out that they're actually all just a bunch of weebs, and they're big fans of Gurren Lagann, so they just draw a bunch of spirals. And then they show you the show in your mind, but you're in a fantasy world where Gurren Lagann doesn't exist, and it turns out the world that they are like inhabiting and the gods that they praise are just like anime.
And then you realize that it's not Gurren Lagann, that they're just doing the Junji Ito story with the spirals.
Oh yeah.
And it's bad news.
The bad
News bears.
Yeah.
Anti-spiral.
This is the Flumph that will pierce the heavens.
I was just thinking that when I was thinking about, because originally when you said monastic Flumphs, I was thinking like, a D&D monk.
Yeah.
And that's silly for a D&D monk Flumph kind of thing. But then I was kind of thinking that maybe there's like, I was thinking kind of like a school of or kind of like a martial art or like a psionic kind of teaching where they would kind of like they would learn a bit this kind of psionic siphoning ability from the Flumph.
Like a more focused psionic energy kind of thing, so it's like used for combat.
Yeah, and also they can kind of like use for combat, they can sustain themselves by just kind of taking like psionic kind of vibes off people. And they kind of, that's like a technique that they learned at this specific kind of school. Like, oh yeah, I learned it just from this little guy who helped me out when I was trapped in a cave at one point. And then
this little guy.
And I hang out with his little friends, and then I decide to learn from them, and now I teach other people how to do it. Something like that, maybe. Or like a proper kind of ancient teaching, like trust the spirals kind of thing, whatever. But like, I just like kind of, that just came to my head there, kind of like a strange Flumph martial art, basically, you know.
That's cool. That just like evoked a really cool idea where somebody who has been like in jail in this like terrible dungeon kind of thing, but some Flumphs are nearby and they like telepathically show them how to specifically draw a spiral in the air that like opens like a hole in a wall or something, just like temporarily. Like the only way you can learn to do this is by a Flumph teaching you one of these monk abilities kind of thing, so that you can tap into your own psionic ability. Like the Flumphs activate your psionic awareness kind of thing.
Yes.
That's cool. I like that a lot.
And then I like that if like a monk is able to, or like a scion is doing that and they're kind of a master of it, then like their aura turns the colors when they're different emotions, you know, like they turn red when they're angry. Like that's kind of fun.
That's great. Very flavorful.
Going with the Flumph kind of stuff. I like, oh, he's mad.
Just going with the Flumph. Like, go with the flow.
I like that a lot. Like, you could combine that with the idea of, like, you know, that there's these monastic orders, but that they, like, you know, for people who aren't Flumphs, maybe this martial expression of it as, like, a fighting style is almost, like, more natural. Because Flumphs are so, like, different as creatures. It's like, oh, yeah, a monk can understand their teachings as a physical expression. And like treats it differently and learns like spinning kicks and spiral punches and stuff like that. Yeah. But it's like the same principles of like, once you have the knowledge, it's all about applying it. But that like it's understood in different ways. You could even have that be something to do with the Gith. The Gith are like big monk boys. Is it the Gith Yankee or the Gith Zerai?
I can't remember.
I want to say I think it's the Yankee or the monk.
That sounds right to me.
The Yankees.
Ghost.
Imagine that episode. Imagine doing Ghost. All right, Tim, tell us the real world history of Ghost, please.
Oh, Jesus.
Ghost.
We're going to be here a while.
Is there anything on ghosts, guys?
I was, for the record, I was dead wrong. It's Zerai are the monks.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I have very little knowledge about the Gith and their whole thing. But anyway, yeah. So that's a way you could express it, is that like, you know, that's how they understand the same psionic teachings.
Yeah.
In martial forms, but it's the same principles. It's just expressed differently.
Yeah. Very cool. Any final thoughts, lads, on these sweet little Flumph friends? Nope, that's it.
Oh, okay.
No, sorry.
No, that's okay. No, I understand. Like, no, I was just gonna say, throw one into your games. But don't expect a fight to happen with it. But it might just be a fun little encounter if you're looking for something to pass the time in D&D.
Pass the time.
The only thing I was going to say was they're little weird dudes, but if they like, because they fly and because they float and they're like psionic and they're able to like read minds and, you know, infer emotions and stuff like that, you could kind of have an interesting thing where like, if they are like aware that their appearance might dissuade people, or they're concerned that they don't want to like upset anybody, you could have them basically have disguises of just big flowing robes, and they just sit in the head of the robe and just kind of float around as a person in a big robe. And that could be like a disguise they use, for example, when they're entering like a mind flayer city, so that they don't stand out. Or like it could be a way they go above ground, either because they're sensitive to light or because they're sensitive to the fact that, you know, they're unusual creatures and they might be singled out above the Underdark.
Right.
So just like, yeah, a little kind of, I've actually been just been sketching it here on my notepad while we've been talking. Just the idea of like, you know, the little eyes being inside kind of a big hood, and then some sort of shoulders made out of a tree branch or something, right? Like it's just a disguise.
Just holding them in its little tentacles.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And then just a cloak that
Just draped.
lands onto the ground.
Cool.
And that's it. And it just floats around and looks at you. And maybe there's like, I mean, you could even have the thing where there's like a couple of them in one side, in one body, like, 3 or 4, like making up a single cloaked figure, which would be kind of interesting. You could have like them appear as part of a city, like if you have some kind of mystery occurring in a city, like maybe you're trying to find, there's some sort of strange murders going on. Maybe it's kind of like you're trying to track down a rogue mind flayer who's eating people. And you're like, what about those robed figures we keep seeing, near the crime scenes? And it's actually the Flumphs are trying to like help you out and track down this guy because they can pick up his psychic signature.
Cool. I like that.
Or you're trying to get a Flumph into a bar and they just wear those.
3 Flumphs in a jacket walk into a bar.
They want a pint.
Yeah.
But they can't have one.
Oh,
That's cool, Dan. That's cool.
it is.
All right.
This is a fun one.
Yeah, Flumph.
Flumph. Fun Flumph. Go with the Flumph.
Okay.
Shut it down. Shut it down.
Oh my God. All right.
Thank you very much for listening to this episode of the new monthly Creature Club podcast. If you've enjoyed this, you can subscribe if you're not already subscribed on whatever platform it is you use to listen to podcasts. If you're using a platform that allows you to leave reviews, if you could leave a review, that'd be great.
Quick call to action. Spotify has ratings now.
Oh, cool. I did not know that.
I'm pretty sure for podcasts. So if you listen to us on Spotify, consider leaving us a rating on that. That'll be great. Thank you very much.
And if you don't listen to us on Spotify, but you have Spotify anyway, you could still just leave a rating and then just go back to listening on whatever it is you use. But, don't get an account for us. It's not worth it. Like,
It's not.
It's literally if you're already on there, but otherwise don't bother. If you would like to get in touch and complain about our new schedule or for any other reason, you can find us on Twitter at Creature Club Pod. You can find our website, creatureclubpodcast.com, where this episode and every previous episode has been posted. You can comment below it. Or you can email us, creatureclubpodcast@gmail.com, where we get emails mostly from things that are like, your podcast isn't on our subscription service. And I'm like, leave us alone, please.
Yeah, please stop. Did you get my email?
But when we get emails from people who actually listen to podcasts, that's legitimately quite nice.
Yeah.
We almost always read them out and talk about them together. We probably should read them out on the podcast more, but we're just not very good at this.
Yeah. We don't. It's very hard to find them. We used a thing called Chartable for a while, but they gave us a premium version for some period of time, and now we can only look back a single month to reviews, so I have to go hunting. It's very inconvenient. But yeah, if you do have reviews, we will read them out. I just don't have access to any of them right now.
Yeah, exactly. We do actually appreciate them. We see them anyway. Absolutely. I mean, if no one else does, so we see them, which is nice.
Yeah.
And we like your feedback. And we will still, I believe, plan on doing occasional episodes because we are doing kind of pure mainline Creature Club, but homebrew specials are still mainline Creature Club. They're just homebrew specials. Yes. So we are still happy to take your homebrews and do an episode with them, which are great fun. We've done 2 before.
Yes.
And they're both great. And we'll probably do more because they're just really good fun. And it's just, it's nice to take a break from, a stat array that says prone deficiency to read a stat array that says like, the cool sword that cuts you in half. And I'm like, yes. Excellent.
Yeah.
Straight to the point. Love it.
And actually, a quick thing on that one there is that a lot of people have sent us really cool stuff for the homebrew. And if you have a while back and it hasn't shown up on an episode of the last 2 episodes, consider just sending it to us again and say, hey, I sent this before, but here you go, just to remind us.
Yeah.
And we will consider putting in there because I think most of them we wanted to put pretty much everything that you guys sent to us, but we just were waiting for another episode to do it.
Yeah.
So just remind us and we'll go back anyway and look at them, but remind us, put it up there and say, I don't mind you putting this on the episode.
And feel free to sass us if you are sending it for the second time. You can do the full as per my last email.
Yes.
And, that is well deserved. So
yes,
fully go for it.
Absolutely.
It'll be hilarious.
Yeah. Oh, please. I mean, that would actually be really good if we just got a week of sassy emails of people being per my last email. It's just the same stuff. That would really make me chuckle.
Yeah.
Very good.
Excellent. So thank you so much for listening, folks. Next episode will be another monster. And I have been Mikey.
I have been Tim.
And I've been Dan.
Stay cool. It's got to be a good intro, guys. We're back.
Does
Yeah.
it? Oh, I think that will be beyond people's expectation for us.
At this stage.
Yeah. I mean,
Well.
just getting an intro is more than we've given them for a very long time.
Yeah. Okay,
Nothing
so
else- nothing
Flumph,
else.
I guess. Let's go into it then.
Hooray.
The
Let's
just
mysterious
fucking
Flumph
go.
drifts through the Underdark, propelled through the air by...
Damn.
Wow, he's just taken off without us fucking.
Yeah, I
gone.
guess we don't do any
Jesus.
intros. We're not doing intro.
Wow.
Let's go hop in. Okay, yeah, let's do an intro. A Flumph. Sorry, it's dark in here. I'm gonna point a light at me. That's all right. Can I get light
lights up
here,
in the studio,
folks?
please?
Can we get lights up
Can we get some lights
Lights up,
up,
please.
Thanks.
for Mikey?
All right, I got it.
Thank you.
Where was I?
A Flumph glows.
A Flumph.
Who wants to read us in? I just did some speaking, so maybe choose someone else.
I'll get back. I'll start us off.
Get back.
Get back. Get back to where you once belong.
Copyright strike.
And we're dead.
We don't get those on podcasts. We can. It's the Wild West out here. Go ahead, Daniel. I'll let you ring it this time.
Ding-a-ling.
Very good.
Sorry,
All
guys,
right.
the dessert bell made a weird noise. Sounded like me. It didn't make a bell noise. I don't know if you guys heard that.
Yeah, we'll get that looked at.
That's a sample I'm saving for later.
Ding-a-ling.
Ding-a-ling.
I'm putting that on the soundboard.
I'll send it to you.
Immortalized on the soundboard.
Yeah.
That's a high honor.
Mhm.
Ding-a-ling.
Ding-a-ling.
Ding-a-ling, ding-a-ling, ding-a-ling,
Ding-a-ling.
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 Woohoo.
That's Mario. Mario's here in our podcast.
Oh, Mario's here. How's it going, Mario? How are you doing?
I love you in Dr. Mario.
Hey, that was my brother.
I liked you in Super Mario Land on the
Ooh,
Game
good
Boy.
choice. I've been playing Paper Mario on the Nintendo Virtual Console Nintendo 64 on the Switch.
On Nintendo Virtual Boy.
And I have the worst headache.
My eyes hurt. All right, I'm stopping recording.
Yeah.
Me too.
Oh, I can't find the button.